say thanks to Carrie for teaching us how to get the prospect to the vault. We're going to start from the vault moving forward. Gerard asked me to do a little talk on selling to IT, and I said, okay, I'll be glad to help out. And then a month went by, and I said to myself, wait a minute, why am I going to be talking about selling to IT? I probably know less than anybody in the room about selling to IT. And so I thought about it, and I just thought about, what is it that I do? And how do I sell? And why do we close business? Because we've been very, very successful. And I said, what is the answer, in selling to IT? And so to kind of go back a little bit, how VariTrust got here, how we got to this point. My first sales career was in industrial adhesives. I sold glue. I mean, it was Elmer's glue. There's glue on everything. Every table, the wallpaper, in the carpet. Probably most of everybody's shoes has glue. When I was selling glue, I got to see every kind of manufacturing there was. I got to talk to plant managers. I got to talk to guys, making shoes, making furniture, whatever. What it did for me was it gave me kind of some skills training in talking to people who were performing a task, doing something that in reality I didn't really care much about, but it gave me the training to kind of listen. I got to see what goes on behind the scenes in companies. Fast forward, I got tired of selling brick and mortar type products, working for a manufacturing company. Went to work for a business-to-business startup internet company. Didn't really know a whole lot about it, but that was 1998. Things were kind of kicking off. At the time when I went to work there, they said, oh, you get 10,000 stock options. And I said, well, what's a stock option? So I signed this piece of paper. I'll take the 10,000 options. Never thought they'd be worth anything. Didn't really care, so I get a good salary. A couple of years later, they went public. 3 or 4 months after that, those 10,000 stock options had gone from like 16 cents to $64. They went up to $120, and they split. They went up to, I think it was another, $150, and they split again. So this whole time I'm thinking, well, this is really cool. Stock options I don't know anything about. And I don't live a high consumption lifestyle. My wife has a good job. We built a house. To me, that literally was going to be my retirement. I literally was thinking at 33, 35, I'm just going to retire, hang out, go ski, do whatever. And I really believed in the company I was working for. I liked what we were doing. I thought the company had a good business model. And boy, did it change. And how fast did it change. And when it started changing, to me, I thought this is a temporary blip. Shares went from 150 to 100 to 60 to 35. And then I started thinking, maybe I should sell a few of these. Because I had the options. I had exercised them. They were in my account. Maybe I should sell this, at least get a little something. I still think it's going to go back up, but maybe I should spread the risk out a little bit. I sold some shares, and the rest of them promptly went to 5, and down to 1, and that's when I just stopped waiting. So I at least had gotten a little bit of money, for those shares. I was pretty disillusioned at that point with the company. It was time for me to go do something else. That was around tax time. Then I had my accountant do my taxes, and I learned an acronym called AMT. I didn't know anything about stock options and what happens when you exercise them. Then I got the line item of how much I owed, which was an astounding amount. Because I didn't do my research to know, what happens when you exercise options. So out of however many million it was, I was left with a paltry. At that time, I don't even think it was $100,000. I was also left with pretty much without a job. I had to go back to work. At the time, I went to work for an IT services company selling what was really software development. You want a website built, you want an ASP, you know, a .NET application, we would do that. I didn't know what any of that was. I'd just go find out who had a need, and I'd get somebody else to do the rest of the work. I very quickly became disillusioned. I also sold mainframe software that will allow you to extend the data back to a web interface instead of looking at the old green screen CRT. You could at least put a web interface on it. What else did I do? I basically worked for some real rinky-dink, sorry managers, poorly run companies, poor financials. And I got to the point where I said, something's got to change. Because at the time I had a 2-year-old. And I said, I'm getting up every day and I'm going to work. And tomorrow I could not have a job. And it's not just me and my wife anymore. I got a child to take care of. So very quickly, I had to reevaluate where I was and the risk that I was personally taking on. And to me, getting up and going to work every day for that IT company that was poorly run, sorry managers, that was a very big risk. I looked around at the landscape, companies like Compaq at the time, things were tough all over. It was a very, very tough time. It was after September 11th. And I just said, I can't keep doing this. I got to do something else. Well, one day I had this little client. I mean, he was really little. He said, I'm in this kind of poor area of town. I got these tapes. When I back up, I set them on my server. He goes, I kind of got these, these shady employees, and the server's right here by the front door. And he goes, if I lose this data, I'm really toast. My business is gone. I said, you know what? You're right. It is gone. And I said, there are these places, and they keep these tapes, and they're called Iron Mountain or Recall. I said, I'll go find one. I'll report back to you. And I'll just tell you, what you have to do to get your tape stored over there. That very day, I went back to my office. I was in the elevator going up to my office, and this guy had a shirt on that said SafeSite, which is a regional competitor here in Texas. I said, SafeSite, what do you do? He said, well, we store records and tapes. I said, really? Can I come see your place? He said, well, I can't have you over, but call this guy, the branch manager, and he'll let you come over and see the place. So called the guy, said, hey, I'm with an IT company. I got a client that needs to store some tapes. Great, come on over. I'll show you what we do. I get over there and I walk into a warehouse, and the first thing I see are these rows and rows of boxes. And I looked up, and it's just as far as I could see in every direction. It was all the way to the ceiling, and I said, what is this stuff? He said, what's accounting records, and legal records, and medical records? And I said, oh yeah, that makes sense. A lot of paper, a lot of records. And then I said, well, how much do you charge for this? And he said, 50 cents a box per month. We got a flat rate. It includes pickup and delivery. And I'm thinking, 50 cents a box? How do you make any money on that? And I said, well, exactly how many boxes do you have? And he said, well, we've got about 600,000 in this warehouse, and we've got 600,000 in the warehouse behind us. And we're about to build another warehouse, plus I got locations in Austin, San Antonio, and on and on. So at this point, I'm doing the math. And I'm thinking, okay, wait, I've been getting up every day. Every month I start out with 0 sales. I got to go create new business every month. Every day I get up, I got to go get something. I have 0 recurring income unless I sell something. And here's this guy that is just, he doesn't have to do anything. He's just sitting here, just cranking out cash. I was truly astounded when he told me what they had. So he said, okay, come on into this tape vault. I'll show you where we keep the tapes. At the time, not being in the business, I couldn't judge how many tapes they had. To me, it could have been 1 million, it could have been 100,000, I don't know. But I said, well, how does this work? Well, it's 50 cents a tape. But we also charge services, retrieval, refile, transportation. And I'm thinking, okay, I can't even count the number of tapes in here. It's got to be, 200,000, whatever my number was in my head. But very quickly, I went from customer intelligence gathering to competitive intelligence gathering. Right there on that floor, that first visit, I knew I was going to be in this business. I didn't know how, but I knew that this was the kind of revenue model that I wanted to have. Because again, you know, things had changed for me. I needed to do something on my own. A little early. So the kids motivated me. To make a long story short, I knew Chris, because that's my partner. He had a background in finance. I needed someone that could help me there. I have great operational skills, great sales skills, great people skills, but I'm not a detail person. I'm a big picture person. I don't want to know about the finance piece. I don't want to pay bills and on and on. So we started our business. We started our business with $150,000. Okay, if I look back today and someone came to me and said, you can start a record storage business and have a vault, and you can do it for $150,000, I'd say you're flat crazy. It cannot be done. There's no question it cannot be done. And probably the only reason we were able to do it is because we didn't know any better. We started our business. I was motivated by my kids, and shortly after starting the business, my wife said, well, wait, you just started this business. We're more in debt now. You put your name on the line for this bank. And oh, by the way, you're not getting a salary. I said, well, we just started the business. We need to keep all the money in the business. So my motivation to sell quickly changed. Okay? That's pretty much exactly what my wife told me. Just don't screw this up. She said, my dad started a bunch of businesses. He lost it all. I'm really scared about this. Do not screw this up. So that has become my motivation even still to this day. So back to selling to IT. It's fairly complex. What we do is it's difficult because you can't be an expert at everything. I want to give you some sampling statistics that I did last night. What I took a look at was, and we started a business in, I think it was December of 2002. Over the last couple of years, I've been the only person selling. I've never had a salesperson. It's always been me. Why is that the case? Looking back at my own personal experience, I know what it's like to be burned out. I know what it's like to find a good salesperson. There aren't that many. Of 20 salespeople in a room, maybe one is what I would consider the cream of the crop, if that. Let's say 40. Out of 40, you might have what I would call one as a salesperson. As a startup and being a small business and having limited cash flow, we couldn't afford a salesperson. It had to be me. I didn't have a choice. But as we moved forward, I kind of realized, hey, who better to sell this than me, the owner? Okay, because I got the motivation. I got my kids. I got my wife that's going to make me live in the vault if I screw up. I'm not going to find a better salesperson. There's a lot of owners in this room. There's a lot of general managers, a lot of managers. And so I'm here to tell you firsthand, I know what it's like to be burned out. I know what it's like to have call reluctance. I still have it to this day. I'll go a couple of weeks and I won't call anybody. And I'm talking about hot prospects. I'm not talking about cold calling. I'm not talking about sending letters. I'm talking about people that have contacted us or we have had dialogue with. It's difficult to go out and sell every day. But what I did is I went back and I looked at, and this is only new business. This is not any existing business that's growing, like organic growth as far as media, growth in the library. It's not cross-selling of existing customers. This is pretty much all new business. Over the last couple of years, excluding that, I've had prospective opportunities of about $1.2 million, and it was totaled a number of 220. half of those I have closed. Okay, that's me. It's a pretty good ratio to close 50%, you know, 1 out of every 2. You know, why do I have that high ratio? To me, that's high. Yes?
Question about that, Mr. Solomon. How many of those were competitive situations and how many were not?
I'd say probably at least half of them are competitive situations, if not more, where they were evaluating us and someone else. You know, and there's, and of these numbers, okay, let me back up a little bit. Approximately 145 of these are media services, you know, storage, any kind of services around media. I think about 45 were hard copy records, and the rest was other. But the reason that I've had the close rate that I have is really a couple of things. One, I can't remember the number Kerry mentioned, something like 27 contacts, or what was the number he threw out? So,
27, 28.
okay. That might be a little high, but that's not far off. Okay? And what I call a contact is somebody contacts us, they have interest, they maybe come see our vault, and then there's some follow-up that's got to occur. That could be a phone call, that could be me going to their office, which is very rare. It could be email. You basically got to pester people. Okay, you got to keep it going. So if you're not already have salespeople, you better make sure you got some motivated people, because it takes a lot of motivation to keep on and on and on contacting people. We were having a discussion last night with Jerry and Colleen about, was it better to get someone to come to your vault? Is it better to go see them in their office? I would say, I can't remember the last time I went to someone's office to call on them. If I can't get someone to my vault, I got a very, very low probability of closing that business. Plain and simple. Have I closed people over the phone? Absolutely. But if you can't get someone to come to your vault and see it, the chances are pretty low that it's going to get closed. Or if it does get closed, you've got a pretty good chance that, you know, the next guy that comes along, they're going to move. So I also went back and I looked at the average age of opportunities. I use Salesforce.com for CRM and also for sales contact, primarily for CRM. But what I do is I use it, there's an opportunity tab. That's really my reminder list. Okay, I have my opportunities. I remind myself each time I log in of here's what I'm working on. If I look at what's lost, or what I call on hold, unless someone flat out tells me no, or we've gone with someone else, it may die off, but I put it on hold. I don't consider it lost. But if I look at what's been lost, what's won, the average age of everything is 158 days. If I look at just what I closed, how long did it take me to close that business, get a signed contract? This isn't verbal, this is signed. The average was 51 days, with it being a little bit less for media than it was for hard copy. That's not a bad length of time to close business, at least I don't think for me in my situation. But I think what makes all of this difficult is each of our businesses is different. Some of you have been in a long time. Some of you are just getting started. Okay, some of you are in a small market, some are in a large market. So what works for me, you know, is my opinion, and it's, you know, it's something I've kind of crafted. I've crafted my little spiel to get people to come to my vault, you know, to get them to do business with us. Yours may be vastly different. So I'm not here to try to tell you how to sell that to IT. I'm trying to tell you, here's some ideas, and here's some things that you should keep in mind, and hopefully you can take away, you know, something that will help you. When I got started, I was at a major disadvantage. Not only did I have a tiny vault and a tiny warehouse with nothing in it, I didn't know anything about media storage. I didn't have one customer to start with. That we actually are still in business is really astounding. Because that's how bad it was. But keep in mind, I was coming from a very risky position to begin with. I was willing to take a lot of risks to start this business and to get where we were today. We built a Firelock vault. At the time, nobody else in Houston had a Firelock vault, and as far as I know, only one private company does. But to me, I thought, okay, well, I've got this Firelock vault. Nobody else does, so I'm going to use that to my advantage. Okay? It could have been a Durasteel vault. Okay? It doesn't matter. Nobody else in town had a Durasteel vault. I don't care if it's a Firelock, a Durasteel, what your preference is. You've got to use what you've got. And it might be a little, but you got to start somewhere. Okay? So people would come over and they'd say, golly, that thing is tiny. Yeah, but it's a Firelock. and it complies with NFPA 75 and 232. And every time I'd say that, I think, well, they don't ask me what that means. Because I don't know. To this day, I still don't fully know what it means. But I would say, hey, this thing has a concrete-filled vault door. Well, how do I know it has a concrete-filled vault door? Well, I think somebody told me that when I was building the thing. I don't really know. It's got a smoke-detecting door closer. I'm thinking to myself, well, that thing works, Someone said, hey, go get this expensive dehumidifier. So you know what I did? I said, hey, I got the most expensive dehumidifier there is. It's going to keep this vault, humidity really low. Well, it's expensive, but it doesn't work worth a flip. But I used what I had at the time to help me sell. I had a lot of weaknesses. When you came into my vault, that's what I had. You walked into this big empty room and it looked a lot smaller on the inside because there was one gym track. And there were maybe 5 tapes in one drawer. I didn't even have any old tapes that I could even put in there to make it. So this friend of mine had a bunch of old servers sitting around his office. So I said, hey, what are you doing with those? He goes, oh, they're just in a way, we're going to throw them out. I said, hey, can I put those in my vault? I said, I'll keep them for you for free. Well, anybody that would come over, I'd say, oh yeah, this was some, somebody's having a legal discrepancy. They wanted us to hold on to these servers. These have real important information on there.
You told me that once.
I can assure you.
Over in this corner, I stuck a little fold-out table. And I just put stuff on it just to make it look like something was in there. Any cases that I had, my turtle cases that I got, I would stick them over on a rack in this other corner just to try to make it look like I had something in there. So, again, and at the time, we were willing to start out with smaller customers because we didn't know anything and we knew we would screw up something big. So we went out and we got small customers, and one by one, they kind of started coming in. What I would also do is anybody that I could get to come visit me, which at that time was really difficult. I'd say, well, I got this dehumidifier, my place is unmarked, I've got this security system, whatever. I still did not have, for a long time, we did not have a lot. We couldn't afford it, but again, whatever I had, I would use. I try to meet any objections and so on. And this is really scary. I was trying to use O'Neill, which is, I'm not going to knock it, it's great on paper. It's a great product. But I was trying to use O'Neill on tapes. Well, I'd gotten up to about 1,500 tapes, and I was really having problems because I was having to manually set return dates. I had a lot of, everything I had was active. And I found myself literally about 4 to 6 hours of the day. Okay, now keep in mind, this is 1,500 tapes. 4 to 6 hours of every day was doing work orders and manually setting return dates. And at the time, it was just me and I think one other person. I realized, okay, I got to look forward. I had another 500 tapes. That's more than 8 hours in a day. I can't do that. So, while it was a weakness, anybody that came over, I'd say, man, this is the best tape management product you've ever seen. Look at this. I can put dates in here. I can put a destruction date. I can put notes. Again, it was really causing me pain, but I just used it where I could to my advantage. O'Neill had, at the time, I think they had some PDFs or something. And it said, well, this is the process of how our software works. I thought, I don't really know what all that stuff is, but it looks good. It looks like I got something. Okay, so I'll put it on paper, and that's what I use. I give it to a prospect, and they go, I don't know what it is either, but it looks like it's got something. and that's just how it went for a long time. Okay? When they would ask me, well, we're looking at Iron Mountain, how are you different from them? I said, well, you can call me. I'm the owner of this company. You can't call them. So, I use that small size, like probably a lot of you have, to your advantage. Okay? Then I get a call from this guy, Peter Komarkowski. And I talked to Gerard. Gerard says, hey, there's this thing called an IT watchdog. And we were looking at tape track. We were going to buy tape track at the time. And I thought, oh man, IT watchdog. IT guys love that. You can check the temperature and humidity, and you can put a webcam on it. And I thought, it's only $500. What a great tool, because some IT guy is going to be nerdy enough to say, hey, you got a sorry little vault. The guy who got that IT watchdog, that looks good. So I put it in IT watchdog, and every time somebody would come into the vault, I'd say, hey, look at my IT watchdog. And again, it just went on and on. We ended up going with tape track, more from a standpoint to help us out with return dates at the time. I don't think we fully explored all the capability until probably a year or two into it. But when people would come to my vault, I'd say, look at how I can get these return dates, automated how I can get these return dates set up. You don't have to do the work. You don't have to fill out any paper forms. You can scan your tapes. Again, I just try to be nimble against the big guys. Anything that I could use and kind of keep, piling it on and on, just to give that person some more confidence, that's what I did. A lot of you guys are probably familiar with an up-and-coming sport called UFC. Has everybody heard of that? Ultimate Fighting? Okay, start watching Spike TV. When you see these guys, these fighters on UFC, this is not wrestling, it's real fighting. And two guys will get in a ring, one of them will be big, one of them will be small, and you think to yourself, well, that guy's going to kill that little guy. But guess what? In almost, I'd say probably 75% of the cases, the small, nimble fighter undoubtedly always wins. And so I kind of liken that to how we've had to compete against Iron Mountain, some of these other people with more resources. I may not have the financial stability of Iron Mountain, but I guarantee when you call me, or when you come to my vault, or when you email me, I'm going to have a proposal emailed back to you before the Iron Mountain guy calls you back. And that's if he calls you back. The speed that we, because of our size and our focus to service and speed, that's what's enabled us to get people interested, very quickly, get them to our vault, start showing them, here's what we have against the next guy. It took us about maybe a year and a half to fill this vault. And then we built another one that volume-wise is about 6 times bigger. What I would do, because I still felt like we were small, we're calling on bigger customers, we're landing bigger customers, but I'd have people that would come over and instead of saying, I've got 5,000 tapes, I'd have somebody come over and say, I've got 50,000 tapes. And I'm thinking, I probably can't afford the gym tracks for all those all at once. But I need to at least look like I can. I need to look like I can handle that person. So even though this is one vault, I'd say, well, there's our vault 1, and here's our vault 2, and guess what? Here's my vault 3. That can be your vault. Okay? Just to try to not masquerade, but to let them know that, yeah, we're still small, but we can handle you. To this day, if someone comes over, and they say, I've got 100,000 tapes, I say, great. You sign a deal for 100,000 for us to store 100,000 tapes, I'll build a vault for you. Okay? Because they've got to have the confidence that you can handle them. And so these are just things that, again, we do, just to try to sell. I had a problem where once I built my new vault and I walked in there, it's like I'm in an empty room again. Okay, what do I do now? Because I don't have the cash to go buy gym tracks to put in this room. So we moved all of the gym tracks out of our little vault into the big vaults. When people would come over, we would tell them, oh, this is our archive vault, even though there was nothing in it. All of our gym tracks we put in this nice row, so when you look at it, it looked like they had a lot. And so again, it's just, you have to use what you have, what your advantage is. No one's perfect. We all have weaknesses. But again, you just have to adapt and say, what can I showcase? So now I've got my climate monitor for vaults 1, 2, and 3. Even though this is all the same room, it looks good. Another problem that we turned into an advantage. The tapes in these cases are from a well-known company that had some legal problems. Unfortunately, we won a big piece of business from Iron Mountain. When Iron Mountain sent us the tapes, they were in record storage boxes, and there were about 90 pallets of them. Not half pallets, full pallets. So that caused me a problem because I couldn't afford to buy enough gym tracks to put those tapes in. But once we got into it, we found out that once the company shut down, they said, okay, if you're a subsidiary of this company, just send your tapes to Houston, we'll take care of them. Well, guess what? Everybody was using DLT. And guess what? Everybody started with barcode number 1 and then took off from there. So what happened was we started not only getting 90 pallets, we had about, I'm going to say 5,000 to 6,000 duplicates. Tape track is great, breaking media out by media type, and then you can have the same barcode scheme for each media type over many different customers. So what we did was we said, okay, we can't afford the gym tracks. Let's scan them to containers. So Gerard, we got him write us an application to be able to scan those to containers. But then we had the problem with duplicates, and how do you handle that? Okay, no one software really handles that well. So we wrote we had him write a program that would append to a volume serial number, a -1 or a letter, I don't remember what it was. Without that, I honestly don't know what we would have done. We would have had to relabel 80,000 tapes with their own not the customer's barcode, but our barcode. So, again, each person has software. Some people use vaultware, VHS. You just have to continue. We told the client, we'll get this stuff scanned. We'll get you an inventory. They did not have an inventory that was accurate. They had the Justice Department asking for tapes to do legal restores, and there was an ongoing investigation. Iron Mountain not only couldn't find tapes, they couldn't give them an accurate inventory. They didn't know if they had 30,000 tapes or if they had 80,000 tapes. It was a pretty big mess. And we won that because we said, one, we will take the time to go through and scan every single tape, and we'll give you a complete inventory. And so, how we were going to do that once we got them, I wasn't really sure. We just got the business and then worried about it after the fact. And I know a lot of people in this room kind of work on that same model. But what we did was, we're not really equipped in our vault to do a lot of container storage. But we said, for new clients, new prospects coming over, look how many containers we can store for you. We do containers now. So those pretty rare containers, while we don't like store them that way, anybody that wants to store containers now, we say, oh yeah, we got plenty of containers, we can store those. You're going to find that with Sarbanes-Oxley and all the auditors that come over, I know everybody in this room gets the same question. Do you have a gas fire suppression system? Can we do slide? Can we do containers, whatever. There is no answer to selling to IT guys, to selling to any company. It's going to vary for everybody. Each business is unique, like each person in this room. You know, some guy's going to say, oh, you got a gas fire suppression system? That's all I need. You store containers? Great. You know, let's do business. You just have to find what works for you and emphasize that. Someone's going to say, well, do you have GPS? You know, yes, I got GPS. There's no clear-cut answer, but you know, one, you've got to be motivated or have people that are working that are motivated. If you're an owner, obviously you've got a financial stake to go out and sell and to do your best every day. If you're not an owner, you're a salesperson, some people just like it. It's their thing. And they're willing to get up and go out every day, and they like talking to people, and that's great. But you know, somebody in the organization's got to be motivated. I know some of you have had problems with salespeople. I understand that because that's what I am. You know, again, the strengths that work for you. What works for me is not going to work for Dan. It's not going to work for Ken. You have to find what works for you. I would say do not oversell. Get someone to come to your vault. Give them your tour quickly. Highlight that you've got a security system, you've got card access, you've got whatever, and don't oversell and don't overtalk. I call my selling and my tour, you know, kind of more of a shock and awe type tour, because I got a lot of stuff to do. I'm doing operations, I'm selling. Obviously, I want to get the business and close the sale, but I don't want to oversell somebody. But I want to get one of these IT guys in, give him enough information fast enough in little pieces that we just keep moving. He leaves saying, okay, in the back of my mind, I saw a security system. They drive their vans in the building. The vans are unmarked. They've got, you know, this kind of case. They can put a lock on it, you know, whatever. Move through it quickly. Get them out the door and start your follow-up. You know, start it the next day, 2 days later. Yes, Dave?
Question about the unvended sale. The 50% is walking through your door with probably not a lot of preconceptions, or assuming an unsophisticated buyer that hasn't had previous experience with iron or another vault vendor. So you know it's not competitive, and you got a good feeling what you're about to show them. You know it's yours. So to what extent is, I mean, so how do you price it, Mike? I mean, are you gonna try to, what do you do in that regard?
Well, I mean, one of the things that I started doing is we were shopping around for T1 lines. I got a proposal from this guy from AT&T, and he sent me this kind of pre-quote sheet, and it said something like, you know, what's your business address? Where's this line going to be installed? How many times have you quoted something and you're thinking it's over here, and it's in some office somewhere else that's 20 miles farther than where you thought it was going to be? So what I realized that I wasn't doing is I was getting people in. I was asking them, do you want a weekly pickup? Do you want whatever? But I really wasn't getting the detailed information that I wanted to get and that they needed to give me to price it accurately. So I came up with I modeled it after the AT&T sheet, and I said, you want weekly pickup, daily pickup, you have any archive tapes, you need cases, you need media management software, do you have remote offices, okay? And so I just started asking more questions.
And more specifically, do you ask them, do they have a budget in mind when they walk through your door?
No, I do not.
And do they have a budget in mind when they walk through your door?
I don't ask them because I think if someone is here and they are willing to drive and see my vault, one, they've identified that they have a need. Two, they probably have identified that they've got budget. Because if someone's going to take the time to leave their office and come see you, there is interest there. Okay, they're not just, hey, let's get out of the office and go look at vaults today. Like Carrie said, nobody has that kind of time. So I just try to focus on, here's the value of what we can do for you. And in a lot of cases, even large clients, it started out as what was really storage, or a live rotation. And because we have found a niche using the software that we use and what we can do with it with a client in enabling them to send tape lists or integrate into their backup systems, I found a niche for me that helps me really sell. I had a slide on here. Okay. About labels. Okay. When I look at something like that, I mean, everybody in here has probably seen an email from Hugh Smith. Okay. When I look at something like that, my brain turns off. I can't take that much information. I can't take an email from Hugh, and I like Hugh, we're good friends, but for someone like me, I can't look at that and go, oh yeah, that makes sense to me, so guess what? You know, I call Howard. Or some guy asks me about, you know, how do I do whatever with a tape? I call Ed. Okay. I try to focus on how I can help them, again, you know, add value. If I can't, you know, you try to pretend that you know something about labels or tapes, you're going to get squashed. You better have some friends in the industry. If someone asks you a question about labels or they want to buy labels, you better call Howard and ask, okay, this guy wants to buy labels. You know, what do I do? Get your labels from Howard. Okay, save yourself a lot of headache. We just try to find out, you know, where we can help, how we can create value for them. We don't know something, we ask our friends, and we have a really good network that has helped us out. Again, everybody's different. We don't sell products, so we partner with people like Nation and Media Recovery. They send us a lot of leads. Some of you sell product and you compete with a Media Recovery. Okay, again, it's different for everybody. You have to find what works, you know, what works for you.
I think part of the problem that you have is trying to avoid negotiating with yourself when you're pricing.
Yeah.
That is making a judgment about what it's going to take to get this customer. And that's a real art. And I think you try to find a way to get, and by asking questions, and you've got to get the customer, try to get the customer to get you in the ballpark before you start nailing the price.
Yeah. I mean, Dan, that's a good question. You have to, I think, this is a very capital, or can be a very capital-intensive business. Okay? If you're in a fast growth mode like we are, it is extremely hard on you. I mean, our cash flow for a long time was really screwed up. We were living paycheck to paycheck. But part of that was you have to realize what your service is worth. And, you know, if you price it low, let's say you got a weekly account and you price it at a $125 minimum or $150 minimum, and you don't get that account, so what? It's $150 a month. Okay? Get your minimums up. Okay? Because what you do is more valuable probably than you even recognize. You know, if the client is really interested, they're going to pay that. It's chump change to them in the IT budget. $250.
That's where I'm coming from. That's
Yeah.
exactly where I'm coming from. I mean, I feel like almost as an industry, whether it's paper or tape, we're not charging nearly the value that we're creating.
You're probably not. I mean, our amount is a $250, well, this was even, I don't even know what it is now, a $250 minimum. Okay? For a long time, I was afraid to charge that. I was crazy, $250, and mine was $150. And then it was $190, and then, you know, and on and on.
Dave, when we get to my session, we can hammer that one real hard. Because pricing in this industry goes from pennies to gold coins. And how we get there and how we do it just runs the gamut. So that's something we can't talk about price, but we can talk about pricing. So that's a fair question.
But I can tell you that, well, this is one thing I can tell you, is I don't think you learn to give good service. You either give good service or you don't. Okay, this is something within a person. So for us, with being the owner, it's become the culture in our business. I might get you in the door. You might have, you know, some reservations. Yeah, we'll do this with VariTrust. But I guarantee you, once you get in the door, our service is so good and so astounding and so fast that you'll never call and complain about your bill. When you call and you ask for a take back, you'll get it back very, very timely. I started keeping a folder of just the thank yous and response that I get from clients. It's not like every now and then, it is frequent. And part of that is because we've hired good people that care, okay, and they truly make an effort. This business is not difficult, okay? This is not rocket science. It's moving, items from one place to another, building your little pile of boxes. It doesn't take a lot of brains to do that. If a client needs something, give it to them. Work with them to get it. And I know that sounds like common sense, and I think it was Steve yesterday that said, what was it, 99% of car accidents or train car accidents occur at railroads. And while that seems like common sense, to a lot of people, calls go unanswered. They take their time. When someone calls up and they need a tape, they need it. Okay, get it to them. On the way over here this morning, we had to take a kind of a circle around because of some traffic. We pull up to this railroad crossing. I'm going, why is this bus stop? Well, here comes a slow-moving train. A car pulls up almost onto the tracks. The bar comes down and hits the glass of the car. Okay, so I thought Steve was a little crazy when he said that yesterday, but literally, the bar hit the lady's windshield. So, it's just a lot of it's common sense. You've got to look at the marketplace, which is constantly changing. You've got to continually reevaluate where you are. Yes, Tony?
Do you think it's advantageous for sales, or your sales, and you do hard copy and tape storage? Do you change the way you sell when you're dealing with IT managers opposed to hard copy storage? Like, do you think is it necessary for sales guys to have an understanding of IT when they're selling to IT managers?
I don't necessarily think that it is, they have to have a complete understanding, but when you hear, find, like for me, I think Gerard helped me understand that, okay, there's Tivoli Storage Manager, and there's Net Backup, and there's a handful of real common backup applications. So when I go see someone or they come over to my place, I say, hey, what backup software do you use? I don't really care, I don't know the details, but I just ask a guy what backup software that he uses. Okay, I'm building rapport on his level. Okay, but I can assure you that if I get a question like that, I'm calling my friend Gerard. Okay? You know what I mean? Not only do I not have an understanding, I don't want to have an understanding about what a tarball is or a red hat or whatever. I mean seriously, but
we fix that problem too.
Yeah. And this is actually, I didn't make this up. This is what I got from the guy. I did make this up. But this is the kind of person that this guy is. It's very difficult for me, a big picture thinker, to carry on a conversation with someone like this and keep a straight face. This literally, I can go to sleep just reading that. So you don't have to have an understanding, but you have to find a little sliver of something that you know about and you can talk about. Oh, you have that backup? Great. Well, you can give me some output and that'll work with O'Neill. Or using Tivoli Storage Manager? Oh, easy. You can print out a list, it's in an email. I can do whatever with vaultware. Okay, so, I started using that because now I know, okay, anyone that can generate output, be it a spreadsheet, a text file, in an email, that's an opportunity for me to hook them in, with my software. Okay? It's also an opportunity for me to help streamline my business, make the vault work better, and keep the head count down. Okay, so those are things that I gravitate to. I always ask about that because that's my little niche. For you, it might be something, something different. If you want to put your own barcode on a tape, say, hey, you know what? We put our barcode on a tape. I realize you have yours, but guess what? It will never be confused with someone else's. Okay? You just have to find what works for you.
So what effect, Mike, do you think it would have not having access to people that could answer a question like that?
I don't know how, we would not have grown our business like we have. I would have continual problems. Even stuff like labels, okay? I'll get someone that'll say, hey, I need labels for whatever tapes. Well, guess what? I learned the hard way to ask, what kind of tape drive do you have? Okay, because they don't all work in the same drive. What kind of format? I started asking questions. And, again, I learned this from Howard. I had to learn the hard way. Things like tape and product sales. We do not do product sales because the margin's low, especially on tape. So a lot of times someone might be having some problems. Like, I've got a big opportunity in one of our accounts because I overheard some guy talking about, I got a problem with my Fuji tape. I don't know what it was, but I said, hey, Ed, I heard this guy had a problem with Fuji tape. Call it.
Same guy he's talking about.
Yes. So you definitely have to have friends. Like I said at the opening, a lot of guys in this room have helped me overcome problems in our growing business. There's new guys that have called me, that I want to repay that and help out. You can always have situations where you've got a client in your city, you're going to need help in another city. You better have your network going, you better have your friends, find your local network, okay, people that can get hot leads over to you, get those people over to your vault, and if it's something more than what you do, call your friends.
I think on a very fundamental level, you have to decide what business you're in.
Yep.
And there are two kinds of vaults. Those that are in the storage business, those that are in the disaster recovery. If you're in the storage business, you don't need to know much. Just keep it simple. A room in the back of the warehouse is fine. If you're in the disaster recovery business, you better learn how to speak the language. You better learn what's going on. You better learn how to talk to the big dogs.
Yeah.
So, let me just challenge with comment on that, because I'm interested as somebody who wants to exploit my space, John, and I fight it almost every day. We see opportunities out there. So does that mean you're going to turn down human tissue samples, or you're going to turn down wine or fur, or where do you draw the lines if you're a DR and a tape guy?
Okay, so I got a media company with 25,000 video tapes. All they want, they don't care about climate control. They don't care about high security, but it's good money. I'm not going to turn it down. In that case, okay, fine, I understand. Let's make a deal. All right?
Just trying to figure it out. We got
Okay.
have a sense of our identity.
But understand, disaster recovery drives our business. That's the reason we're being business. Now, the other part of ours is becoming archival because of regulatory issues and the requirement to retain it. It takes a longer period of time than all the other peripheral things that we can do. But we get there in the first place because of the requirement of disaster recovery planning and everything that does that impacts IT.
But then if you were storing wine or tissue samples, that all come with their own baggage as well.
True.
That, if you know how to store tapes for DR, you might not necessarily know how to store wine.
Agreed.
Or sell
the
the
wine
storage
business
wine.
and decided I didn't want to be there.
Well, and part of this statement down here at the bottom, being able to consistently reevaluate yourself in the changing marketplace. I started an empty warehouse and empty vault simultaneously. I had, no more reason to go into tape than I did hard copy records. Today, we do not market our hard copy business. Someone calls, we take it, if someone asks, yes, we have it. We let it grow, and it does grow. But we have made the decision that there is a greater need and a bigger opening for us in media. And that is where we have become the experts in Houston. We're still tiny compared to other guys. That will knock your socks off on the service that we get. Okay? And I'll put in whatever technology makes sense, makes me run faster, makes me get better service. Okay? So we are always looking at how are things changing. And it has changed. The marketplace in Houston in 4 years has changed. It's not storage anymore. It is DR. Hard copy records, it hasn't changed a whole lot, and it probably won't. We're seeing an increase in people scanning, but we're still getting boxes. Still want to save the boxes. So we've made a decision that we're going to be experts in the media services business. We'll store your records, and that's good business. I mean, it pays for, pays for the facility. It's not a bad business to be in. But this is kind of the sweet spot that we have found. We know and we have the confidence that we can do the best job of anybody here, period. So you have to look at the business and how it's changing, and you better keep a close eye on it because it is constantly changing. And you got to change, and you got to change quickly, with it.